Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from Group 1. Today we would like to explain about testing, assessing, and teaching. Before we begin, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Rahman Yamenawati, and then my partner Cindy Febrianti Ekananda Putri. And then here video for us.
Point A. What is test? In a simple terms, a test is a method of measuring a person's knowledge, ability, or performance in a particular domain. Component definition of test. The first is the method, which is an instrument of a set of technical procedure or element that require performance on the part of the test taker. Second, a test must measure. Some tests measure ability, while others focus on very specific competence or goals. Most language tests measure a person's ability to perform language, that is speaking, writing, reading, or listening to a subset of the language. Assessment. Learning is about what students do, not about what we as teachers do. Assessment is defined as the act of judging the amount of learning that took place as a result of learning and teaching. Assessment and teaching. Assessment is an ongoing process that covers a much wider domain. If every teacher gives a question and every time a student answers a question, makes a comment or tries a new word or language, the teacher is unconsciously making an assessment of the student performance. A good teacher never stops checking students whether the assessment is incidental or intentional. Informal and formal assessment. Informal assessment can take several forms, starting with unexpected, unexplained comments and response, along with judging and other impromptu feedback to students. Formal assessment is an exercise or procedure specially designed to make use of the source of skills and knowledge. Formative and summative assessment. Formative assessment is evaluating students in the process of build competence and skill with the aim of helping them to continue the growth process. Summative assessment aims to measure or summarize what students have a summary of the what students have learned in place, looking back and seeing carefully that students have achieved their goal.
Next, norm reference and criterion reference test. Another dichotomy that is important to clarify here and that aids in quoting our common terminology in assessment is the distinction between norm reference and criterion reference testing. In norm reference test, each test taker's score is interpreted in relation to average score, median middle score, standard deviation, extent of variance in scores, and or percentile rank. The purpose in such test is to place test takers along a mathematical continuum in rank order. And then criterion reference tests, on the other hand, are designed to give test takers feedback, usually in form of grade on specific course or lesson objectives. Classroom tests involving the student in only one class and content to a curriculum are typical of criterion reference testing. And C. Approaches to language testing, a brief history. A brief history of language testing over the past half-century will serve as a backdrop to an understanding of classroom-based testing. Historically, language testing trend and practice have followed the shifting sense of reaching methodology for a description of test trend, see Brown teaching by principle. For example, in the era 1950, an era of behaviorism, and special attention to quantitative analysis. Testing focus on specific language elements such as the phonological, grammatical, and lexical contrast between two languages. Decreed point and integrative testing. Decreed point tests are conducted on the assumption that language can be broken down into its component part and that those parts can be tested successfully. What does an integrative test look like? Two types of tests have historically been claimed to be examples of integrative tests: clue test and dictation. A clue test is a reading passage perhaps 150 to 300 words in which roughly every 6 or 7 words has been delayed. The test taker is required to supply words that fit into those blanks. And then dictation is a familiar language teaching technique that evolved into a testing technique. Essentially, learners listen to a passage of 100 to 150 words read aloud by an administrator or audio tape and write what they hear using correct spelling. And next, communicative language testing. Principle of language testing: the need for a correspondence between language test performed and language use in order for a particular language test to be useful for its intended purpose. Test performed must correspond in demonstrable ways to language use in non-test situation. And then strategies components: the ability to employ communicative strategies to compensate for breakdowns as well as to enhance the rhetorical effect of utterance in the process of communication. And the last, there is a performance-based assessment. Performance-based assessment of language typically involves oral production, written production, open-ended responses, integrated performance across skill area, group performance, and other interactive tasks. A characteristic of many but not all performance-based language assessment is the presence of interactive tasks. In such cases, the assessment involves learners in actually performing the behavior that we want to measure. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.